Welcome to Astroventure, the DSLR astrophotography channel.
Hey there, Astroventures, welcome back. If you're new to this astrophotography channel, my name is George, and this is the astrophotography channel for DSLR and mirrorless camera bodies, combined with the lenses we already own and a simple star trekker like the Skyguider Pro or the Star Adventurer. In today's video, I wanted to talk to you about histograms. Now, I have found that a lot of people doing astrophotography within the setup niche that we're doing, DSLR, mirrorless camera bodies, that a lot of people are not coming from a photography background. And they've used their camera, but they're not coming from a photographer or photography background where you're familiar with all of the tools that a photographer uses, such as the histogram. So let's get into it and why it is that you need them. First off, on the back of your camera, that display that you're looking at, that is it's a lie. It's a JPEG, slightly processed image by the camera, and it's not what your raw data is actually recording. And of particular note, I love the displays in the back of Canons. They make everything look amazing. You know, hats off to the Canon display. It's amazing. But the thing is that what you're actually recording in your data may not be that good, and you won't know it until you get into the histogram. Additionally, the brightness that you're seeing on the back of that camera, your eyes are dilated because you're out there in the dark. And so you're much more sensitive to what's on the back of that camera. And I know myself from previous experience, I found where I might go inside in the lit room, and then you go and look at the back of your camera and everything is kind of blacked out. Again, back to your histogram. So let's take a look at it. Here's a histogram. Now, if you're looking at the back of your camera, and every camera has this setting. Heck, I found a lot of point and shoots even have it. Find the histogram. Dig out that owner's manual. Look it up online, but turn on the histogram. Now, looking at the back of the camera, on the left-hand side, if your data is climbing up that left wall, that means that you are underexposed and you are shooting so dark that your data is actually just blacking out. It's not there. It's what we call clipping, okay? Now, to get enough data, we need to move helicopter again, but I'm going to push through. If your data is climbing up that left wall, you've got to push it over to the right so that you're collecting enough data. Now, if it is climbing up the right wall, again, I'm holding the camera, looking at the histogram. If your data is climbing up the right wall of your histogram, now you're in an area where you are so bright that you're blowing out. And what that means is that you're overexposing to the point that everything is going white, the literal opposite of the black clipping on the left-hand side. So there's no data in there. Ideally, what I have found is that I want to adjust my histogram so that the primary peak of data is climbing up about the quarter mark from left to right because we are shooting in the dark. So I want it 1/4 of the way over from the left-hand side, and that's kind of where I want that peak coming up and down. Now, obviously, I'm going to have a thin layer coming across the bottom going over to the right, and that's the bright areas, the stars. Those are going to blow out. It's a star. It's a light source. To the left of that peak, going towards the left wall, again, I'm also going to have it crawling along the bottom. And that's because there are darker areas, and it's going to move towards that left wall where you would be clipping. So ideally, I like to be anywhere from the quarter point, left to right, to a third of the way over from left to right, anywhere in there, a quarter to a third. And I find that that works really well. But again, don't trust what you're seeing on the image on the back of your camera. Trust the histogram, because what's going to happen is as you move that over to a quarter or a third, depending on how dark it is and how well your eyes have dilated and adapted to the dark, that image may seem too bright. Now, one last thing. We commonly call them blinkies, okay? It's a setting that Nikons and Canons, and I'm sure Sony probably has it too. I apologize, Sony people. I'm just not that familiar. But we have something called blinkies, and if you just use that word, you'll be able to find how to turn those on in your camera. Now, if you happen to run into me out in the field and you're shooting Nikon, I can help you turn on those blinkies. Canon people, sorry, you're going to have to look it up. But what a blinky will do is when you are doing the playback on your image, at least on my Nikon, I'm not going to discuss the controls for Canon because I don't know Canon, but when I hit playback on my Nikon, it'll show me the first image and it'll show me some data on it, and then I can push down on the circular pad on the back of my camera and it will show me the same image, but it will get rid of all of the extra data that's in there. But the blinkies, and I apologize if I have it backwards, if it's the first screen or the second. But what will happen is the blinkies will flash, and anywhere that is so white it is blown out, it will turn black and then back to white, black and then back to white. And that's telling you you're overexposed and blown out. With that, take into consideration, if it's blinking at you in an area that is bright because it's a star, well, it's supposed to. What you're looking for is, say, in the nebula of Orion, the Orion Nebula, you've got areas that are blinking that you don't want to be blinking because you're now washing out the color, then you know that you have to bring your exposure down. But the center of the Orion Nebula is so incredibly bright, it's not uncommon that you are blowing out in the center of that nebula. So, just to recap, turn on the histogram. Don't trust the image on the back of your camera. If it's climbing the left wall of your histogram as you're looking at it on the back of your camera, you're too dark, underexposed, losing detail. If you're climbing up the right wall of the histogram as you look at it on the back of your camera, too bright, overexposed, washing out the data. Ideal target area, my preference, 1/4 of the way over from left to right for the main peak, and I'll go as far as 1/3 over, so somewhere between a quarter to a third left to right. So there you have it. I hope that you will get out there, turn on those histograms, start using them, because I'm telling you, it will save you on some of your imaging where what you were shooting was kind of faint, but your eyes seemed to pick it up on the back of the display, but the actual data you were capturing just wasn't enough. So with that, let's bring this to a close. If you like the video content that you saw here and the information that I'm sharing, please, share the video, like and subscribe. Help us grow this channel. I know it's really tough to get a YouTube channel going, particularly in such a small niche. So if you would, help us out there. And lastly, we do have a Facebook group called Astroventure DSLR. And I'd love to have you, join us on that forum, continue the conversation, and, share what you're shooting. Until next time, I wish you clear skies and uneventful nights. Now, with that, oh, helicopters. Detail in there is completely blacked out. So you're losing that helicopter again.